To everyone. I apologize. I was about 3 minutes late, but I was not my fault. The train got held up by some kind of a robbery out in the western suburbs. They were unloading a train car to steal appliances off of it, and somebody caught them. So the guys that were doing it running, so they shut the railroad yard down, trying to catch these guys. So all the trains coming in from the west were shut down for almost an hour. So anyway, I would like to call to order the June 3rd, 2025 meeting of the Council of Mayors Executive Committee and remind you that this meeting is being live streamed on Zoom. First, we have some housekeeping notes. Members, in order for online attendees to hear you, please unmute your microphone when speaking and identify yourself for the record. For everyone attending this meeting in person, please add your name to the sign-in sheet in the hallway so that the staff knows who attended. This meeting is also on Zoom and is being recorded for those joining us on Zoom. Please keep your microphones muted unless you are called upon to speak. If you wish to speak during the public comments, please indicate your interest via the chat box or using the raised hand function on Zoom. Staff monitoring Zoom will recognize you when it is your turn to speak. Time for introductions and to confirm our quorum. Please introduce yourself and to the council you represent. Well, I'll start with myself. I'm Jeff Schelke. I am the mayor of Batavia, and along with Mayor Bennett, who is the other chairman of this group, he and I were both elected mayors in 1981. So we are now the longest serving mayors in the state of Illinois. Turn to you. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Stephanie Pfeiffer with CMAP.
You're a Kukler.
Mark Kukler, Village President LaGrange and Central. There.
Jaisal Patel, the village, mayor of the village of Lincolnwood.
Dave Mork with CMAP.
Mary Warner, Village of Worth, Southwest Conference.
Mike Moran, president of Village Barrington.
Cecily Kaz, Village President of Kenilworth and North Shore.
Michelle Nelson, Mayor of the Village of Flossmoor and representing the Southland.
Leon Rockingham, Mayor of the City of North Chicago, representing Lake County.
Jane Grover, CMAP.
And I'm told we have a quorum, right? Okay, let's see, it says we have also received requests. Do we have anybody that wants to introduce themselves online?
Do you have any mayors online?
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, to participate remotely in this meeting in accordance with the Open Meetings Act, which requires a vote to approve their participation. So we don't have any I'm reading off a script here, so that's what we're doing. Thank you for everyone who's attended. Are there any corrections or additions to our meeting minutes from the March 4th, 2025 meeting? And I assume you've all been given a copy. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move.
Second by Mayor Rockingham.
Motion and a second. Hearing none others, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, signify by saying no. Motion carries and the March meeting is approved. All right, it says, I represent this committee on the CMAP Metropolitan Planning Organization's Policy Committee. The MPO Policy Committee met just last Friday for a special meeting to review and approve 6 county safety action plans. In the 2023 CMAP was awarded a $4 million grant for safe streets and roads for all to help create safety action plans for Cook, DuPage, Kane, Lake, McHenry, and Will counties with a deadline of May 2025. The approval of these 6 plans meets the deadline and now opens the door for the counties to apply for federal funding to implement those safety action plans. We are joined this morning by CMAP Deputy Director Stephanie Pfeiffer, who with more updates from CMAP.
Good morning, everyone. And I do want to take this moment to welcome President Kaz from the Village of Kenilworth, Mayor Patel from the Village of Lincolnwood, and President Mike Moran from the Village of Barrington, who will join us this morning. They are interim appointments from their councils for this council of mayors. So hopefully you enjoy your interim appointment, and hopefully you will join us permanently here soon. So I want to just have a few updates for you generally from the agency. First of all, just wanted to let everybody know that our local planning assistance call for projects has closed, and we got a number of applications, over 80 applications from 69 different jurisdictions. This continues to be a very meaningful and popular program where we work with the Regional Transit Authority to offer technical assistance to communities to help them plan to be able to make more transportation improvements, but also in keeping with our Onto 2050 regional plan. So there were a number of different applications that came in. We are going to be announcing the awards here in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned. There were 3 categories that really received a high number of applications. Those continue to be our ADA self-evaluation and transition plans, our capital improvement plans, and corridor plans. So those are very popular, and we continue to get lots of applications for those. Also, our regional transportation plan, that's the next big plan that we're working on right now. Some of you may have heard. We continue to work on the development of this next regional transportation plan that will incorporate our socioeconomic forecast. You'll hear a little bit more about that today. At this phase of the plan development, we are also gathering input from residents through engagement events, but also a questionnaire. We look forward to you joining us at our community events. We have a number of them scheduled: Romeoville, North Chicago, LaGrange, Aurora, Flossmoor, Diamond, and Oswego. Those are coming up in the next few months. And we do thank all of you for all your efforts in volunteering your communities as well for future events. We are glad for more responses to our questionnaire, and Jane will follow up with information on how you can share that questionnaire with your residents so we can hear their voices as well. We encourage your residents to be represented in that questionnaire. Our next big plan that we're working on is the vision plan. So in parallel to the regional transportation plan, CMAP has begun development of a regional vision plan. This will strategically articulate long-term goals and aspirations for the Northeastern Illinois area, while also identifying potential challenges and opportunities that could shape our regional progress around key issues in the future. The timeline for the strategic vision plan concludes with an approval by the CMAP board and MPO policy committee in 2027. But in the nearer term, we will formally launch the vision plan at an event on Tuesday, November 4th this year. It also is the 20th anniversary of CMAP. So we'll be having a little bit of an event, and we'll also be having a State of the Region presentation as well. So this celebration will take place here in the old post office. You are all invited, and so please look for that information coming soon. Next, I just wanted to let everyone know that there are applications are being accepted right now for the Illinois Highway Safety Improvement Program, or HSIP. This program aims to significantly reduce fatalities and serious injuries from traffic crashes statewide through a data-driven approach. IDOT administers the program with the Federal Highway Administration to prioritize safety improvements on all public roads. The special attention will be paid to rural roads and vulnerable populations, such as older drivers and pedestrians. The application process for HSIP is open now until June 20th. IDOT intends to commit $32.75 million in this HSIP funding during the 2027 cycle. More details are available on IDOT's Bureau of Local Roads and Streets circular letter that we will share with you in our email after this meeting. And then really just wanted to set the table for today's discussion. The next 3 meeting agenda items are focused on tools you can use. So really trying to highlight different things that CMAP does that helps you in your everyday work with your communities. The forecast data and evaluation tools that can be valuable resources for municipalities. Many municipalities rely on these resources to support their local planning and development efforts, and we hope you can share with your staff and colleagues as you serve your residents and local businesses. So we'll be hearing more about that today. So exciting agenda. Looking forward to lots of good presentations.
Thank you. We're going to go then to new business. CMAP Senior Data Analyst Alex Balls and Carlos Lopez are here to discuss regional demographic trends and CMAP's regional and local forecasts. You're on.
All right, thank you. Yes, Alex Balls, Senior Research Analyst. As Stephanie mentioned, we're in the stages of creating a regional transportation plan, and the forecast is an integral part of that, saying, what does the future look like right now? Do we like where we're headed? And at a more practical level, how much money will we have to invest in the region? And how can we best decide how to invest that limited transportation dollars that we'll have? And so the forecast is a general exercise to help kind of answer those questions and is a piece of the larger transportation plan puzzle. So part of the reason we forecast is that it's a federal requirement for every metropolitan planning organization, which is what CMAP is, to consider the transportation and land use conditions to at least a 20-year planning horizon. This transportation plan will go through the year 2050. CMAP and most other MPOs set this up in a two-step process. The first is to look at the regional forecast, which we'll be talking about first. That looks at the number of people and jobs in the 7-county region as a whole to try to get a more holistic sense of where we're headed. And then the local forecast, which my colleague will talk about shortly, takes those kind of regional totals and allocates them down to the municipal level and based on kind of more on-the-ground understanding of what's going on in each place. Slide. So I won't spend too much time on this, but as I mentioned, as part of the regional transportation plan, we'll have a financial plan to try to get a sense of the investment, and the forecast is input into that financial plan. We have a scenario planning exercise trying to think about what the different possible futures for our region might look like. It's also used in modeling different transportation projects and as a tool to talk to people about, again, kind of where's the region headed. The regional forecast, which we just completed, includes kind of three or four major inputs. So, sorry, go back quick, sorry. Okay. The population change is always a function of three things in any kind of area. That's the number of people that are born, the number of people that die, and the number of people that move in and out of the region. So these are what we're explicitly modeling here. And kind of notably, the international and domestic migration are both kind of the hardest to estimate. And then there's also a jobs forecast where we look at the number of jobs in the region. I'll talk more about that shortly, but that's mainly done by kind of an external consultant we're working with. Next slide. So some of the input data in the forecast is just what does the birth rate and mortality look like in our region historically, and how does that compare to the national level of these things? We also look at demographic projections for what kind of birth and mortality rates are going to look like going forward and kind of make some adjustments based on what we know is specific to our region. And we also purchase a jobs forecast from Moody's Analytics. We think they're one of the kind of industry leaders here, and economic forecasting is a very complicated process. Their model has, thousands of different inputs, and we think it does a good job of trying to take in a holistic account of what's going on in the economy. And we also look at economic data like labor force participation rate and unemployment rate, because one of the main ways we kind of predict migration in and out of the region is looking at, how big is the labor force and how many jobs are there. And if there are more jobs in the size that we think there will be workers, we have some people kind of move to the region to fill those jobs. Next slide. This just gives a general sense of all the things that go into the economic forecast, because it is kind of a important part of the overall forecast, but it's not only looking at kind of census population estimates, but it's also looking at projections in, the cost of fuel, the home sales, government spending. It takes into account a lot of different things as it's doing its economic forecast. And this is, again, led by Moody's. So I'm going to show you the draft forecast, but first I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in the region in the past few years, and kind of also what's going on nationally, and some of this story is also international. So at the national level, in the 2019 to 2021 period, so this starts kind of pre-COVID, US saw 100-year low levels of growth. It was some of the lowest growth we've seen on record. We had our first year where the population increased by less than 1 million. And so as a nation, our level of growth has generally been slowing down. The census does a population forecasting just at the national level, and they update that every few years. You can see from this graph, their 2023 forecast was much lower than the 2015 or 2018. That's due to a number of things like lower birth rates in the country. And the 2050, which our plan goes through, the forecast is 28 million for the nation, is 28 million fewer than it was the last time we did this exercise. However, since 2022, the region and the country as a whole have seen more robust growth, and that has largely been driven by international migration, a lot of people coming to the country, and we don't necessarily expect that to continue going forward. Next slide. So this just looks at what we call kind of the components of change, or, you know, of that births, deaths, people moving in and out of the region. What does our region look like in the past 4 years? So this is since 2020. We can see that there's been an overall slight decrease in population, with the biggest kind of negative being domestic outmigration. So that's people that lived in the region previously that moved out of the region to another part of the United States. And international migration and the birth being the main kind of you know, positive sides of this equation. So our region has not been growing that much in recent years, which doesn't mean it won't grow much in the future, but this is just kind of where we're at currently. So next slide. So this brings us to our draft regional forecast, which we'll show here. But basically in 2020, our region had about 8.5 million people. This blue line is the what we're forecasting going through 2050, and that is a gradual rate of growth, but a relatively slow rate of growth. The previous forecast, which was adopted in 2022, also as part of that transportation plan, was about 1 million people higher at 10 million. You'll notice that the new forecast is a bit lower. We think that accurately reflects kind of some of the trends we're seeing, again, both within the region and also just in the United States as a whole. But we still expect there to be, you know, some amount of growth going forward in population. Next slide. We also have a jobs forecast. The kind of most updated forecast, the total number of jobs is actually projected in the region to decrease between now and 2050. Although it's not a major decrease, and it still puts us in line with the level of employment we had in the late 2010s. The current year is kind of a historic high in employment, or at least a recent historic high in employment. And one thing I want to point out is that the employment forecast goes down some while the population forecast went up some. And the reason for that is we expect to see kind of shifting demographics in the region. I mentioned that the population forecast is driven by kind of the size of the labor force in some sense. And we expect there to be kind of more retired people in the region and more people that are not working per job. And that's an aging population. And again, that's not something that's specific to our region, but it's something that I know some of you have been seeing in your communities already, and it's a trend that we expect to continue. So then these kind of regional totals are handed off to the local level, and my colleague is going to talk a little bit more about what that looks like and where we are in that process.
Okay, great. Thank you, Alex. Okay, next I'll go ahead and talk about the local forecast. Next slide. So the local forecast estimates how households, population, and jobs will grow and change across the region from 2020 through 2050. And the map on the right is the population in municipalities, unincorporated areas, and Chicago community areas in the year 2020. So the local forecast answers the question, how will the population change by the year 2050? It gives us a possible future that helps us for planning. Next slide. As Alex mentioned, the forecast is used for a number of ways within CMAP. It's a federal mandate implemented through the region's long-range transportation plan, the local forecast, is also used for evaluating regional capital projects, air quality conformity analysis, traffic projections, and the water demand forecast. Municipalities also use the local forecast for a number of reasons, number of ways. Next slide, please. So we did a survey of municipalities, and the majority of municipalities use the local forecast for long-range land use planning, housing trends, understanding housing trends, community promotion / marketing, water allocation, and transportation planning. So next, I'm going to go over a little bit about how the local forecast works. So next, okay. So as Alex mentioned, okay, let's just, here, there's a number of animations. Let's go back one step, sorry. Just one step back. Okay, great, thanks. So as Alex mentioned, the regional forecast projects the population of people, households, and jobs at the regional level, okay? And this is an important input of the local forecast that I'll explain more in a second. But the local forecast starts, next. The local forecast, which goes from 2020 to 2050, starts with the base year of 2020, in which we capture households, people, and jobs in that year. So we have a building inventory that consists of every building throughout the region with characteristics such as the building type, the square footage, the year built. We match employment to the buildings in the region as well to try to create a ground truth to build the forecast off of. And say when we want to move from forecast year 2020 to 21, the local forecast model does an inventory of how many households are in year 2020, then looks to the regional forecast to understand how many incoming households are going to be. And next, a bit of a lag. Then the local forecast model has submodels that will understand how many households are incoming into the region, and then will allocate households and jobs throughout the region into local areas. Next. The local forecast also has a developer model that acts like a developer in that it provides residential units and non-residential space based on zoning and the characteristics of the area. So basically, the local forecast, as Alex mentioned earlier, takes the regional forecast and distributes that throughout the region using a number of models. Next slide. So what are some of the factors that the local forecast considers when it's allocating households and jobs throughout the region? Well, it considers, it takes a sample. It considers many of the factors that you and I might consider when we're looking for a house or an apartment. So the model will take a sample of vacant units and evaluate them based on this criteria. So what are the retail amenities like in the area? Is it near a hospital? What are the employment rates like? What is the density of jobs or households? So is it an urban or suburban area? What is the access to jobs by a 15-minute train ride, or access to jobs by a 45-minute car ride, or what's the year built of the unit, or maybe the mean household income of the area? So these are just some of the factors that the model considers when it places households throughout the region. Next slide. Okay, so I mentioned that this local forecast consists of this base year, but it also consists of a number of local inputs as well. So it consists of a zoning data set for the entire region. Zoning determines what the developer model can build and the capacity of each block for households and jobs. We did a region-wide collection of zoning data starting in 2023. We reached out via email, and interns and staff went site by site for each municipality, putting together the zoning data for the region. We completed that in April, and we completed that in April 2025. Next slide. Another way that local data contributes to the local forecast is through the CMAP Northeastern Illinois Development Database. You're seeing a picture of it right here. It consists of major developments throughout the region. And so I mentioned there's this developer model that provides residential units and non-residential space. Well, by providing the model with developments we're confident will happen in the future, we are providing that's more real data to the forecasts rather than model data. And so we think that by providing this real data, we're increasing the accuracy of the forecast. So if we think that a development is going to happen in the year 2026, 27, that will be included into the model. Previous slide, please. And then, my colleague Dave Mork is going to talk a little bit more about the Northeastern Illinois Development Database. We've recently created a web map of it, which municipalities or the public in general can go to that website, could go to that web map, fill out a short survey to add new developments that we don't have, or edit developments that we do have. And Dave will tell you much more about that.
Dave, before you start, a more recent example of how a municipality has used the socioeconomic forecast is last week or the week before, a community development director from the city of Evanston, along with one of the planning directors for our primary school district in Evanston, reached out and was needing to get information about more accurate forecasting as the school district considers closing schools. They needed a better understanding of the projection of population in Evanston, and specifically young families that are more likely to have school-aged children. And Carlos and Alex both worked with the school district to find the information, the forecast information, so that they could get a better, more accurate handle on what they could predict for increases, or in this case, decreases in younger families in Evanston, so they could make hard decisions about school closures. So a real world example of how the socioeconomic forecast comes into play as a tool for municipalities, or in this case, a school district to use.
Yes, it's also, as we saw in the slide from our survey, used for land use planning, understanding housing trends, demographic trends, et cetera. So great. My colleague Dave Mork will talk a little bit about how you can get involved by entering developments into the Northeastern Illinois Development Database so that we have future development data that we can enter into our forecast. Dave?
Next slide, please. And okay, hi. My name is David Mork. I'm an analyst with Research and Analysis Planning Department. I'm going to be discussing the Northeastern Illinois Development Database. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So what is the Northeastern Illinois Development Database? This is a product that NIPSI, our predecessor agency, started in 1987. We've been maintaining it ever since. We converted it from a just regular database of information to a geographic GIS version of the database in 2008 and have continued doing that. The database is designed to cover all land uses, so residential, institutional, industrial, commercial, large open space projects, which differs from other development resources that are available commercially, because each commercial product will cover only one type of development. So for rent residential, or for sale residential, or commercial, whereas we track everything in one place. And we also track the developments from their initial proposal stage. So from the time from the time when something goes before the Plan Commission to the time when the last construction is completed and the development is occupied. Next slide, please. So where do we get all this data? Basically, we get the data from wherever we can lay our hands on it. So primary sources we do use commercial data sources such as CoStar, LoopNet, Zonda, that sort of thing. Because of our data sharing agreements with those people, we also then take that data and cross-check it with publicly accessible data that we find online from other sources so that the data becomes our own. We also get data from developers, look at developer websites, contact developers, local news and intelligence. I get about 12 different online newsletters every week that talk about stuff that's going on in the region. And then we also go back to the legacy media such as Tribune, Sun-Times, Daily Herald, Shaw newspapers, et cetera, et cetera. And then also we do get municipal information directly from municipalities. About a third of the region's municipalities do maintain a development page on their website showing current projects, upcoming projects, things like that. We go and we use those. We also contact municipalities. We like to get that information because from our perspective, what we get from the municipalities is the best, most accurate, most complete information, including information on developments that are not covered in commercial sources or not yet in the paper. So it gives us advance warning of where things are coming from. So participation from municipalities, we consider to be vital and very, very important. Next slide, please. So what is the NDD web map? As I said, we started collecting this data back in 1987, far before any of our partner or our peer agencies did this. But for years and years and years, it was available only to CMAP staff, only in-house. And over the past couple of years, we have gone through a update of the entire database, plus we have developed this online portal to the data to allow municipalities and the general public to see what information that we have and where it's going to be, and in ways that it can help municipalities, especially with other types of planning. For example, if you are, I'll use my own, if I'm City of Evanston, where I live, I can then look at also what is going on in my neighboring municipalities. Or if I were a planner in a municipality and I get a development proposal that comes in from a certain developer that I don't know anything about, and I can go into the database and find where that developer has also done developments across the region, get on the phone, call their staff and say, hey, developer XYZ has just come in with a proposal. I see you've worked with them before. What was your experience? How did you do with them and everything like that? So and then it also helps for general public and other things to determine, like, where are for example, the distribution centers, how are they arranged across the region? What type of development has gone on since 2020 and things like that. So if you want to stop sharing, I will start sharing, and I will give a short demonstration of how this works. Now, if I share, okay, so I'm gonna go back a couple of things. Can I? No, it's not letting me. Okay, so you can get to this from the CMAP website. On the regular data page, there's a button marked data. You click on data, then it goes to land use data, then it goes to Northeastern Illinois Development Database, and then there's a place where you can then maximize it to full screen. The database is only available on desktop, laptop, tablet size screens. It's not optimized for telephones because, as you can tell from what you're seeing on the screen, there's just too much information and it would be almost impossible to get anything useful from the side of the screen that's on a telephone. So let me minimize this so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so then what you see here is on the map, all of these little dots here are all individual developments in the region. And we do things, instead of doing it by point, we use the outline of the actual development. So that's why you get some very large spots here like Fermilab or O'Hare Airport. They take up a lot of room. On the right-hand side here, we have filters. So if you want to look at specific things, for example, you can filter by municipality, county, land use, the status of the development, which we have a legend here. We have a simplified status that a development is either completed, it's in development, which means it's been approved, they've started construction, it's not yet done. In the case of, say, residential units, phase 1 is completed, they're starting to work on phase 2. Or it's pre-development, means it's before the plan commission, it's before this village board or the city council, and it is not yet ready to start construction. So you can search by that. You can search by action, whether it's new construction, whether it's an expansion. We cover expansions, whether it's a rehab with a new use, so an industrial building that's being converted to residential. And so, for example, if I were to click here and just out of, because I've done work here, say I wanted to see what was going on in Wooddale, I could do that, hit apply. It then zooms into the municipality and shows me what we have in Village of Wooddale. And so we've got things of various statuses. So if I were to look at, say, something that's orange or pre-development, if you click on the outline, it brings up some basic information. So it gives you the name of the developer, Northwood Station, Holiday Properties, 4.4 acres. It's an apartment building, has 150 units, it's 4 stories, and the status is proposed, which means it's in front of the village. They haven't yet said yes or no to it. You can also say, if you wanted to go through and say, okay, well, I just want to see distribution centers in Village of Wooddale. I can add multiple filters, and then this zooms in. I'll get rid of that. Go away. This just zooms into those areas where we have, these are developments that have a distribution center as a component of them. So each development has multiple components. So a residential one, you'll have, Prairie Acres, which will have components, single family homes, townhomes, park, school, or a business park would have components for each individual building. So in here, so you can display your data either by clicking on the outline, which brings up the little pop-up, or you can look at the table and any filters that you have apply to the table here. So there are 7 distribution centers that are listed in Wooddale. So for example, if I click on this one, it highlights and it shows that it's 895 Wooddale Road, shows the developer, shows distribution as the land use, 86,400 square feet. It's scheduled to start sometime in 2025 and can be completed early in 2026, and it's in pre-development. So if I click on this one, come on. This one highlights, and you see this is called the Wooddale Business Center, Trammell Crow, 34 acres, 441,000 square feet. And this says that it was built during 1997. So that shows you that's one that's been completed for a specific length of time. So you can look at things that way, but then you can also, if you clear, you can go down here, clear everything, go back to this beginning. You can also look at our advanced filters, which if you were in the city of Chicago, you can filter by the community area. Development name, so say you were looking for Prairie Acres, you could start typing. And you get everything with the word prairie in it. So oh, there isn't a Prairie Acres, but Prairie Creek, Prairie Crossing, lots of prairies. And here, if you wanted to say, look at something by, say, Ryan Holmes, you can start doing that. And then you get everything with the name Ryan. You can click on Ryan Holmes and hit apply. And that will give you places where it specifically says Ryan Holmes, which there are 7. You have to play around with that a little bit because sometimes there'll be Ryan Homes, sometimes they're Ryan Development, sometimes they're Ryan Communities, but it allows you to find things where where that developer has been working. And zooming back. So then by doing this, when you have, for example, when you're in the table, you have options that you can, if you click here, you can actually export to various types of things. So you can export the tabular data and read it as a comma delimited. You can read it into Excel. You can use that for printed reports. But if you want to look at the entire database, including the outlines and the shape, there's a download button, which if you click this, it'll take you to CMAP's internal data portal. And you can hit download, and then you can download the entire database and any one of a number of formats that you can then use for your own analysis.
Do you have a address on the CMAP website that allows any town to dial in and get to these statistics very easily?
I'm sorry,
You have a data or a website on your that a city can dial into that will show them the information you're sharing with us now?
yes, this is available from the main CMAP website. Let's see if I've got, yeah, I do have it. Let's see if I go.
While you're looking for it, I'll ask a question also. And if
Sure.
you just Google CMAP development database, it's the first hit that comes up on Google. So it's very easy and you can look at it on the phone. I have a question as far as where the data comes from. Is it entirely provided by the municipality? Is that the expectation, or is it being sourced from any other?
It's being sourced from, we source it from commercial data sources. We source it from things that we look up online. We source it from developers, even stuff that I've gotten stuff from staff members who happen to drive by something and they make a note of it and send it to me. And then we get it from municipalities, especially when that's publicly available on their websites. We do look through those. And the next part I'm going to get into to finish this off will show how we can partner with municipalities to get that data to us. Because what we're always looking out, the commercial data sites are really good for telling us what is coming up, what is just appeared. Here are new subdivisions that CoStar is looking, or that Metro Zonda is looking at. Here's, every quarter we'll go through and say, okay, what does CoStar show as under construction? Make sure that we have those things listed. But commercial data sets are not necessarily all that accurate and complete. So to get back to the first question, from our main CMAP page, there's a link that says data, and you go to land use data, and there's the link right there. And that brings up the that brings up the development database. And you get the splash screen, which I can get rid of. But then the last thing I wanted to mention is up here, next to the filter, there are two surveys. One is called Add Development, one's called Edit Development. And what that does is that if you are looking, say, in your municipality, and there is a new subdivision that's just been approved that we don't have, this is where you can let us know where it is. You can put a description, a general location. You can link to find more information. Really important to us, there's a place where you can upload documents. So if you have a plan commission packet or a approved plat or something like that, a PDF, you can drag and drop it there. And then, you can choose land use status, year complete, put down contact info in case we can contact, and then you hit submit. And what that happens then, that goes to a site that I have access to, which I monitor, and then I can see, oh, these are things that have just been submitted to us. I can look in there, add it, and then this data, I refresh this data pretty much every week on Mondays. So whatever you see on the website is guaranteed to be no more than 6 days old. So we used to update every quarter. Now we update every week.
I asked the question, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it was right when I needed to make sure we got that answer out here. In northern Kane County and southern McHenry County, we've got some very interesting growth things happening. And Mike Reed, who's the mayor out in Hampshire, Illinois, has talked to me a couple times recently about wanting to connect with somebody in here who he can share his data with, because right now, he told me the other day, he's got 2,800 new single-family home lots that have been annexed and zoned to his town. And they're just starting to get built. And I know up in Huntley, they've kind of become a Del Webb community up there, and their population, just the mayor told me, has now exceeded 30,000. And Mayor Skillman from Carpentersville has joined us here. He's the other Kane County representative, and he's got some growth going on around him up there. And where I am in central Kane County, Tri-Cities, Batavia, Geneva, and St. Charles, we're heavy duty. In my town alone, Batavia, from 2022 through the end of 2026, we will have added over 800 new living units to Batavia. And so we got a lot of stuff going on as far as growth. And in my case, a lot of it is focused from senior citizens wanting to move into safe communities or communities with good school systems. And so that seems to be the driving force as to what's happening in all this stuff.
Well, the person to connect with on all of that is me.
Okay.
I'm the person who's in charge of this whole thing. And I would, if you specifically mentioned Hampshire, I would absolutely love to hear from them, because Hampshire is an area that had a lot of growth where it was right before the 2008 recession. So we have a lot of out-of-date information there and stuff that started to get built, but we don't know if it's being built in its original form or if it's been replatted as something else. We've seen that in Elgin, where large developments ended up being sold back to the farmer. And then later they've come back now in a different form on a different footprint. And so that way we can do that. But we're more than happy to take any information and any input from anyone that we can get. Because that's one of the reasons we have these surveys here. One is to add new developments that are coming in, and the other is to edit developments where we have something in there, but it's not necessarily accurate. So if we have something in there and we have it as townhomes, but it actually got built out as single family, then you can let us know that. We can look it up and we can change it and modify it. The idea here, the reason we did this with a survey is so that all of the grunt work is done by CMAP staff. We would not want to, we want to make it as convenient as possible to get municipal input. So we're not actually asking people to go into the database and enter things themselves, but send us the information that you have, and then we can take care of that. So, and as part of that, and I'm gonna just.
Another question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave, and I'll ask our COG, Mark Fowler here to reach out to community development departments throughout the CMAP region and make sure that they are submitting information to you. I'll just say I'm a commercial real estate developer. It's a very fragmented space as far as the information. It's in residential, everything typically is in MLS or a couple of sources. Commercial real estate, as you said, the information is incomplete, outdated, often incorrect because of the outdated nature. I took a look at the website just while here on the phone, and I was happy to see on the slide that our Lincolnwood Town Center was there, but it's not in the database. And so there's a ton of information, so many communities. For you or your department to try to do this manually or on your own is a really tough task. And so for community development departments to be able to easily, even if it's as simple as giving you an address, if you wanted to go and do the grunt work, if there can be a portal. I already sent a message to my community or my village manager asking we're hiring a new community development director, make sure that everything that we have done or have coming is on that portal, and then make sure that we're providing that information. And I would imagine that you're looking at this, but I mean, agentic AI could really be very powerful in making this more complete. And again, as I said, the fragmented nature of this data in the marketplace makes it to where people are hungry for this type of data coming from governments. I was having a conversation on the way down here. Somebody asking me about an entitlement process, and I said, well, look at the communities around and see if anybody else has done the same. This would be a powerful tool to be able to do that, because you can look at uses and search and so much information that comes from us. So I would say to all the mayors in the room and the community development departments that if we can provide that information and help you to make this more robust, it could be a powerful tool for everybody to use. And then lastly, I'd say this should be promoted in the marketplace for outside the municipal circles for those who want to develop. I, as a real estate developer, I never heard about this. I use GIS a lot for real estate purposes because it's a great, powerful, free database. I would imagine a lot of real estate developers, brokers, users would be looking at this for a variety of reasons. So,
yeah, and that is something that we are meaning to promote. I mean, this web map, I think, went live, 3 months ago. I mean, it's brand new. So we haven't gotten the word out, but what we did, and I'm going to stop my share here. How do I stop my share? Okay, someone else is sharing, good. If you can go to the next slide. A while back, we did, as part of our local government network through CMAP staff, put out a request for updates to all the municipalities in the region. We got 34 responses with 153 recent additions and edits. The municipalities here are the ones that we got responses from and worked on entering. I've also reached out I did a lot of work in McHenry County because I was partnering with the McHenry County government with their people. And so I actually went out with Algonquin, Crystal Lake, and City of McHenry. I went out there and met with them. We are starting in July when we have our new fiscal year. I'm bringing on an assistant to help me. And what we're planning on doing is setting up a rotating schedule where we will actually meet either via Zoom or in person out in the field with municipalities to go over this data, because we figure anything like this, if we can sit down just to go over the more recent stuff, it would not take that much time. And so we could do that over Zoom, we could do that in person. And So we're gonna set up a schedule on that thing, because we're especially looking at areas, especially in Kendall, Kane, McHenry, in the unincorporated areas further west, where the commercial data is not all that robust. And, there's certain areas in McHenry, there's that big development going on in Wonder Lake, but Wonder Lake does not have the staffing that, it's like we're trying to get information from them. And so that's what we're planning on doing in the future. So that's pretty much all I have.
So we will, this is such an exciting new tool. So it is new. As Dave says, thank you, Dave, for that very informative presentation. We will ensure that you all have information on the tool and a link so that you can provide that to your staff and other mayors that you interact with. We would love to have lots of input. As Mayor Patel says, right, the crowdsourcing is so important. You all know your communities better than CMAP does, but when we can get that information out there, it is so useful. I know as my prior role as a municipal planning director, if we could have had this tool to be able to find out the proliferation of different uses, right? The councils are always asking, is this, distribution centers, other things that are sort of trending? How is this working in our neighborhood, in our communities? This would have been a huge tool. So not to mention just other developers, right? As Dave mentioned, just knowing, like, are these developers reputable? Have they been in lots of different communities? Can we talk to other individuals as we're working through those developments? Or if you have RFPs and want to know what kind of developers are out there doing the type of work that you want to see in your communities. But again, that crowdsourcing is so important. So it's only as good as the data that we get. So we're going to be doing a big push to really try to get end users, people who are actually in these communities, providing that information. They're the best source for us. So any other questions for Dave?
I think this has been a very healthy discussion. It's been, I think those of us here, I think have picked up some new ideas about how to do it and have some further communication. Mayor Skillman says he's already texted the mayor of Hampshire and let him know that we're in here talking about him. And I mean, he'll be very pleased to hear that. I mean, he's trying to get his hands around this whole thing as to what's going on. I will tell you in Batavia, I now have 6 senior living communities, and I've got a 7th one now being built. So I ask, why are you all building here? Well, the big reasons seem to be, number one, we are surrounded by a whole bunch of hospitals, 2 in Elgin, 2 in Aurora, Wheaton, and we got a good one right in the Tri-City area. So that's a big reason. And then the other one that comes up quite often is the accessibility to paramedics. That there's a big demand for, and now it's gone to the degree that I have people in my town saying, well, I'm glad to see you're now bringing in female paramedics, because I really like it when a female responds to my call. So you never know what's going to pick people's minds, but those are all kind of things in the work that I've heard just in the last few weeks about different stuff that people want to go. So there are a lot of people, I think, moving into Chicagoland, and they're targeting certain areas that they want to be in, and that, hospitals and probably public safety are 2 of the big things that many of them are seriously concerned about.
Well, as I said, I'm very happy to hear from anybody. As I used to joke when we worked over in the Sears Tower, CMAP did not have enough money to give me enough quarters to go up to the sky deck and look through the telescope to cover all 7 counties. And here we're only on the 4th floor. Thanks.
Okay, you're done with
Yeah,
the
I'm
program?
done.
Okay. Well, I think, I'm told I'm supposed to have this over with by 11, so I think we'll make the municipalities can use in their planning initiatives.
Right.
Katie?
Okay. Hello, my name is Katie Rigstad. I am a senior planner here at CMAP. I was the project manager for the Job Quality and Access tool. The Job Quality and Access Tool is a data resource available online through CMAP's website, and it analyzes data from a variety of sources to understand the quality of a job. So thinking about things like living wage or benefits, as well as the types of jobs in your community and in our key industries. And the goal is to have investments to support economic growth and resilience. And so let's get right into it. Next slide. All right, so I'm going to try to be interactive today. For phones, you can scan that QR code. If you're on a laptop, you can go to menti.com and enter that code 146428878. So I'll give you a few minutes to get set up. Okay, looks like we're pretty much logged in, so we'll go to the Mentimeter. Oh, sure. Sorry, can we go back to that slide, please? Okay, all right, now we can go back to the Mentimeter. Thank you. All right, and so the first question that you should be seeing is, do you feel like you've got a good understanding of the jobs available in your community? Looks like we've got a few responses already and pretty even across the board. Some people are feeling very confident. We've got some no's, we've got some maybes.
Please know that Mentimeter is anonymous.
It is anonymous, so no, this is a judgment-free zone. All right. Okay, I think looks like we've got everyone answered. All right, so it sounds like this tool will be quite helpful for everyone. So we'll go on to our next slide. No, sorry, in the presentation. My bad, I was not clear. We're gonna switch in between.
But you could probably go ahead and answer that question while Katie moves on to the next presentation slide. There we
Okay.
go.
And so just a little background on how we're defining quality and access in this tool. In the Future of Work report, the state of Illinois provides a definition of job quality. It's a long definition, so I've just pulled a few key takeaways here for us today. Things like a family sustaining wage and benefits, safe working conditions, an environment that treats workers with respect and dignity, predictable work schedules, and opportunity for advancement all make up a quality job. This is important because when we were creating the tool, we used this quality definition to help shape what data we pulled to make up our definition. So we'll go to the next slide. Thank you. So in the Job Quality and Access tool, there are two components of an occupation that are being measured. So in job quality, we're looking at compensation, stability, and opportunity. So this data that's feeding into the tool is looking at wages compared to what is considered a living wage for a region, the ability to collectively bargain. Does the job have upward mobility or transferable skills into higher quality occupations or better paid occupations? And when we look at accessibility, the tool is referencing data that's looking at job prerequisites. You can can explore some of the demographics of the job as well as flexible work offerings. And so this would include if a job requires a certain level of education or experience, how the workforce in this job compares to the demographics of the region, and does the job offer remote work opportunities. More exact information on the data that is used in this tool is available in a methodology that I can provide to anyone that is interested. Just reach out and I have cards that I can give out later. All right, so now we'll go back to the Menti. Perfect. And so what are one or two words that would define a quality job in your community? It looks like we have already some great answers. We've got wages. Whoa. This is what happens when we try to be interactive. Here we go. All right, we have high wages, flexible, growth, skilled, good pay. Great. All of this, I think, aligns with what we've used to define quality and access. So that's good to know that we are on the right path. Ooh, flexible is getting more and more popular. Okay, thank you all for that. We'll go back to the PowerPoint, please. Thank you. All right, and so you may be asking how this tool can help you out in your community. Here I've got a few of the types of questions that the Job Quality and Access tool can help you answer about the jobs in your municipality. So the tool can help you identify the top 10 occupations that your residents are working in. It can help you identify the kinds of opportunities that exist to connect residents to high quality, high access jobs. You can explore if the jobs proposed as part of a new development are offering good jobs for your residents or if they are accessible. And you can also use this tool to help identify some opportunities for partnerships to increase access or bring accessible jobs to the community. All right, and so now that we've gone over some high-level basics of the tool, I will be using some slides and screenshots to show you more details about how this tool works. I'm using slides and screenshots because the tool has a lot of data going on in the background, so it can be a little laggy, and we've got a deadline today, a timeline to be done with this meeting. So, all right, so next slide, please. So where to find the tool? I've got a video here that will help show this off, but similar to the database that Dave just showed us, you go to the data tab, and then under the demographic and economic data, you can select the Job Quality and Access tool. It is embedded on the page. This is what the Job Quality and Access tool looks like. Let me get my slides together. Here we go. Okay. All right. Also on this page, a little lower down, I didn't scroll down in the video so you can't see it, but there is an instructional video to help you understand more details about the tool than I will go into today. And as well, there is a handy user guide. This was also available out on the table printed. This is on the website as well. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. So this is the landing page of the tool. You have a menu on the right where you can toggle between the various pages of the tool. In the menu, you can see that we have an overview. There's a job quality and access plot, job quality and access details, job quality and access map, I just moved my page and I lost my place. And job quality and access, industry clusters, and then the industry cluster appendix. So there's a lot of information that you can find in this tool. Today, I'm going to focus on the plot, details, map, and cluster pages. And before we get too far in the details, I will just note something about this data. A lot of it is going to be available at the region and county level. When we get to the map, we'll talk a bit more about some of the zip code level data that's available. All right. So let's go to the next slide, please. All right, so this page is the plot. It lets you consider the worker, so who is the person in your area holding a particular job, and compare the jobs based on how they do or don't support that worker. You can adjust the access and quality factor weights to align with characteristics of your workers in your community, and the plot to the left will adjust based on how you adjust those factor weights, the geography selected, and the family makeup, which will inform the living wage needs. And so that makes up those first two blue and orange boxes of this slide. With living wage and family makeup, we've got everything from a single adult to 2 working adults with up to 3 children. You can also do a single parent with a child. Okay, gotta keep moving. All right. For the sake of time, we'll go to the next slide. All right, occupation details. This page gets you more details about a specific occupation. In this example, we're looking at registered nurses and focusing on quality measures of earnings and opportunities. Similar to the last page, you can select that family makeup to change the living wage requirements. And then understanding wages is what is happening in this lower part of the table. You can see in the hourly earnings, the average wage paid to a registered nurse is shown here in quintiles. The living wage line shows what the living wage for 2 working adults is. You can see that no matter where you are in the region as a registered nurse, you're getting paid more than the living wage requirements. And so this lets you explore more details about a specific occupation. And we'll go to the next slide so that I don't make us go late. I'm feeling the pressure now. Okay. All right. So this is the map, and this is where you can do a more narrow geography. So the data only goes to the zip code level. This is due to the limitations of the data that is available that we can put into the tool. But here in the upper area, you can select a municipality. It will pull all of the zip codes that touch that municipality. So even if you've got a zip code that's a tiny little sliver in your municipality, you're going to get all of that zip codes data. There are some ways to kind of work around that or turn off zip codes that if anyone wants further explanation, I'm happy to set up a meeting. But yeah, and so you select a geography here. It will show you the top 10 occupations for resident workers within your selected geography. And a resident worker are going to be the people that live in those zip codes, the jobs that they are working. So this isn't the top jobs generally. These are the jobs that your residents are working. And then below that is some contextual data that you can change on this page. Right now it's showing age. You can also look at things like access to a vehicle. And we also have on here transit information. This will adjust based on the geography you select. The map also has a few layers that you can turn on and off, including transit stops, municipal boundaries, highways, those kinds of additional contextual information. All right, next slide. Okay. And then this page focuses on the region's key industries. So these are the industries that are the workhorses of our regional economy, and where we have existing strengths. On this page, you have a few options to change the analysis, including the geography from region to county level. And you can change between looking at all of our industries, our traded industries, or local industries. And then finally, you can change between an overview and a quality and access view. The quality and access view is what we're seeing here. So for these key traded industries, you can see how the occupations that feed into this industry, that support this industry, fall along job quality and access. Okay, next slide. All right, and so that was a very high level and somewhat speedy overview of the tool. So you probably have lots of questions. A few resources that we have available. I mentioned the user guide and the instructional video. The methodology we are able to send if you want to get more into the nitty-gritty of the data. And then we of course have I'm talking too fast, gotta calm down. CMAP staff members are available. You can either reach out to your LGNs, or I will provide my business cards. And I'm happy to set up meetings to kind of go through this tool. It's a behemoth and you can do a lot with it. It's fun to play with, so.
Well,
All
thank you
right.
for your presentation, and certainly if any of the members of the committee have any questions, you're available to talk, so
Yeah,
thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay, the next one, I'm trying to move this along, trying to keep in our guideline or our time frame, is the committee bylaws report from Jane.
You have in front of you, thank you, Mayor Schilke, Chair Schilke. You have in front of you a copy of both the current bylaws, which date back to at least 2001, and a draft of some proposed new bylaws. We think it's time to update the bylaws for this committee for a couple reasons. One is that the mission and purpose of this committee has evolved over the last over 20 years, and we want the bylaws to reflect that. The other is that the way we conduct meetings has changed in the last 20 years as well. And we'd like to make two primary changes to this committee's bylaws. Most of the structure won't change. The one, though, is that we are proposing to you to hold still 4 meetings a year. One would be an official business meeting, which would require an in-person quorum, which you would conduct the business of this committee, which is to appoint members to 2 of our project selection committees, appoint someone to serve on our MPO policy committee, which Mayor Schilke does now, and approve minutes of the previous year's official meeting. The other 3 meetings we proposed would be workshop meetings. And the advantage of that is that we could have more of a discussion, but more importantly, you could participate remotely. So we're looking to encourage more members of this executive committee to gather so that CMAP can really get more from you in the way of your local expertise and perspective, and kind of think that the distance traveling for many of the mayors is a deterrent, a barrier to participating in this committee. And by creating then the option for workshop meetings to be called at by the chair or by CMAP staff for 3 of the meetings, that we could have more meaningful conversations with more mayors in the room. So this requires an affirmative vote to approve the proposed bylaws. Do you have any questions? We used as a template for these bylaws, the minutes or the bylaws that we use for 2 of our other advisory committees at CMAP.
Okay, we have a motion. Do you have a second? Second. Motion and second. We just call a vote?
Yeah.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Bylaws changes are approved.
With grateful thanks to you. We will let you know about the September meeting and how we will conduct that meeting. We expect it to be a workshop meeting. So thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, then the next one is John Carpenter's here to give us a legislative update.
This is Ryan Gugis.
Oh.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ryan Gugis with the Intergovernment Affairs team, here to provide a brief ledge update to the Council of Mayors. So Very excited to come back and report that CMAP Strengthening Communities funding initiative was successfully incorporated into the FY26 budget. The FY26 budget appropriates $2 million via the Department of Human Services to CMAP for operational expenses. So CMAP staff, we're planning to work with DHS to access these funds and utilize them to strengthen CMAP's technical assistance offerings in alignment with the Regional Planning Act. And also just want to take the time to really thank the mayors, municipalities, the council of mayors, the COGS, advocacy and civic organizations, and anyone that really just slipped in support, contacted state legislators, or just engaged in other outreach efforts to really make sure that we were successful in securing this funding. You know, we've been at this for a few years, and we were successful this year, and I think it really, you know, took the efforts of everyone just kind of jumping in and expressing, you know, the significance of this. And really this funding initiative is about you all, right? It's about supporting our local communities and making sure that you all have the tools, you know, from CMAP, you know, to support some of that local planning work. So very excited to, again, to secure that funding and again, continue to support you all here at CMAP. So next, I'll kind of just talk briefly about the FY26 budget. Just want to touch on a few highlights. So the General Assembly did pass, right, the FY26 budget. The budget, it's a $55.2 billion budget, and it only increases spending by about 4% in comparison to the previous fiscal year. It includes a package of $100 million. They're calling it the Budget Reserve for Immediate Distribution and Governmental Efficiencies, or Bridge Fund, to really address any unanticipated delays in funding or failures of revenue. So kind of creating a shield, you know, for Illinois, and, you know, should there be future budget challenges, you know, as we head into the fall. The revenue package totaled approximately $800 million, and that included some new taxes on sports betting, tobacco, vape products, and additional taxes on foreign and out-of-state corporations. The final budget, it accounts for an approximate $500 million shortfall in revenue projection since the governor put forth his FY26 budget proposal in February. So CMAP staff will continue to review the FY26 budget, the revenue package, and also the Budget Implementation Act to understand how the state is really funding, you know, priorities in our region. So, and then lastly, I'll talk about just some transit reform and funding. So the General Assembly, they concluded session without passing legislation to address transit funding and reform. I know Representative Delgado and Senator Villavelon, they each filed bills in their respective chambers to address some governance reforms. And in the Northeastern Illinois Transit System, the bills would create a Northern Illinois Transit Authority, or NITA is what I believe what they're calling it, to oversee operations of the service boards. The Senate, they actually included some funding options in their proposal that would raise revenues for transit operations and capital, whereas the House version didn't. So lawmakers are expected to work through the summer to address governance and funding issues related throughout committee hearings and then just legislative debate. So as CMAP staff, we'll continue engaging with the General Assembly to offer support and feedback, you know, in the efforts to address transit governance, reform, and funding. Right? We know that this is pretty important to our region, and obviously, you know, CMAP, we did the PAR report, and so we just want to continue to provide that good support and information, and really make sure that, you know, that we're able to fund our transit system and address some of those challenges. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions, and thank you for your time this morning.
Any questions? Thank you.
So I know Ryan had a lot of good things in that update, but I did want to underscore the regional planning funding that CMAP did receive. And as I said at the beginning of the meeting, our technical assistance program is very popular. We have not been able to meet the demand. And so one of the workshops that we'll be having with you in the near future is really understanding what are those community needs so that we can make sure we can leverage those funds to really have impacts in your communities.
Awesome. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, going to committee members, does anybody have any questions or comments you wanted to make about today's meeting or things you'd like to see us talk about in the future?
Chair Schilke, I will say we will look for an email from me following up with links to all of these databases and resources and tools. We can also provide you with today's PowerPoint and those Mentimeter results. Mentimeter is a really great public engagement tool. It's an interactive online kind of survey tool that we use for a lot of things.
The next thing on the agenda is public comment, and I'm told that we have not received any public comment requests? Anybody in the audience? I don't. All right, then, kind of the final piece, final piece of news. Our next meeting is Tuesday, September 16th, 2025, from 9:30 to 11. And unless there is a formal business to conduct, the September meeting will likely be a workshop meeting which will enable you to participate in person or remotely in accordance with our new bylaws. That being said, I'd entertain a motion for adjournment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Look at that.
Top of it.